Hello and welcome. My name is Ajaxpost and I am delighted beyond measure almost to be discussing, reacting to, however you want to describe it, the first of the dev highlights, as they used to call them in Transport Fever 2 days, but 6 years later they're just called first looks or something like that, narrated by the legend that is Colonel Failure, now going by his real name of Sam. As the community manager for Transport Fever 3, we get a first look at the environment, the world building mechanics of Transport Fever 3, due for release sometime in 2026. Now what I'm going to be doing here is going through this announcement. This first is not the announcement trailer. We may look at that as we get to the end of this reaction video. Do I want to call it a reaction video? I don't know, but that's what we're going to do. Discussion video, a conversation piece, if you will, of what's coming up, what we can expect, what they're hoping to deliver in 2026 with Transport Fever 3. And the first look is at the world building, the map creation mechanics, and all the other things. There's a lot of other stuff involved as well in the map creation, and it feeds into a lot of the other stuff that we've already heard bits about already, and we see hints of some really quite interesting and intriguing things. So I'll be playing this through, stopping it quite often, I imagine, as we discuss specific things that I see on here which I think are worth discussing. Reminder, of course, this is beta footage, playtest footage or whatever, so it's already been created, so it is sort of in-game. It is genuine game footage, so this is kind of what we're going to be looking at, presumably on a top-end machine, because this does look, the worlds do look beautiful. We kind of got a glimpse of that in the very first announcement video back in May of 2025, just a couple of months ago. So what is Sam telling us about the world builder in Transport Fever 3? Apart from these beautiful landscapes, one of the things to notice here, I think, is he's talking about creating maps, worlds, based around regions, node technology with variety of rules which connect those nodes together to allow you to actually create multiple types of biome, multiple regions of different environments within one map, within one world. So we could have swamps leading down to coastlines, we could have forests rolling up to mountains, we could have deserts turning into canyons and mesas, or mesas, however you want to pronounce it. We're getting a whole variety of different biomes available to us mixed within one map, and each map will essentially then be unique. It's going to be so much different to the sort of same feel kind of map that we got in Transport Fever 2. So this is going to give us a lot more scope for realistic world building, I reckon. And one thing he does say here is that you can, of course, go through the map editor, the world builder. Look at that. Sorry, look at that. That is gorgeous mountains. If there's one thing I think we can take from this, which is really nice, is the mountains actually do now look like realistic mountains. It looks like the gradients are that much nicer. Now, one thing I noticed actually just before coming to record this video, someone mentioned in the Steam comments, I think it was, about this video that Urban Games have released, is do we get water flowing down these gradients? Will that be a thing? Now that would be properly awesome. You may remember Stephen Spry, who's still making wonderfully complex and detailed maps for Transport Fever 2. When he created his map back for the Cinders Cup and so on that we did, that collaboration we did back in end of 2024, through the summer of 2024, he had to sort of manipulate it to try and create riverbeds coming down the hills, flowing into the oceans and the seas. By gimmicks and mods and terrain textures and so on. Will this actually be a thing? Will we actually have rivers flowing properly into lakes and seas? I mean, look at this. Is this not gorgeous? I think it is. And it does look so much more realistic. Question then, of course, becomes, what sort of power PC are we going to need to run this? No, they're obviously not finished any of their proper play testing or performance testing and so on. So there's been no real no indication at all, let alone real indication. There's been no indication at all yet of what sort of machinery we will need to run this new game. I think I'm going to be needing a new PC though, because I'm going to want to see it in all its glory. I'm not sure my current PC, which does quite well, will be able to manage all this. So there we go. Right, so what are we seeing here? We're going to be looking at, the world editor. I want to finish one thing off on that. Generally speaking, you can use the map generator to create maps as you would do, as we have done previously, but better from Transport Fever 2. But they're still supporting the importing of height maps, so you can create more real world. So that's all still there. So the game is still going to be as flexible, as customizable, as moddable as it was in Transport Fever 2. Look at that. This kind of speaks to me. It's a little bit it's not quite as dramatic as this. It speaks to me of the Peak District, the Lake District areas of Great Britain, which are gorgeous parts of the country. In some senses barren, some senses very fertile and full of water and forest. But these roads, these beautiful curvy roads, now that's one thing they did say in the, I think they did with the interview. I'll try and get snippets from that interview interspersed into this video as well, that they've added a lot more into the road building mechanics. So we should get much more flexible and realistic traffic management. Whether it's going to be anything like City Skylines or City Skylines 2 in terms of traffic management, who knows? Probably not. But it could be much worse than it is at the moment in Transport Fever 2 that they've got so far. Now this is lovely, isn't it? So I'm just going to spend and you can look at the detail on those flowers, the grass, the meadow beneath these trees. That just looks absolutely awesome. Now one thing he's mentioning here, he's actually going through the creation of the map and using the sliders that we're familiar with, like mountains, rivers, lakes, desert, mesas, canyons, those sort of sliders we're familiar with. But he mentions here something that he refers to as a pre-recorded camera track, which is interesting, which he does specifically say that we can do ourselves. It is built into the map editor. So it's possibly a bit like the stills to video camera thing we have in the main game of Transport Fever 2. Hopefully a bit easier to manage and create. But what it does, and what he's trying to demonstrate here, is that you can adjust your sliders and have your camera follow the same track across the map, so you can see it change like that. As you change your sliders, you will see what distinct difference it makes, the impact it makes on the map you're creating. So here he's going to big lakes, less rivers, mid-range mountains and so on. So it's turned from a nice windy river into a vast expanse of water. Gorgeous. And look at this. Right, a quick note there, and I'll be talking more about the industries a little bit later in this reaction, this discussion piece, if you will. One of the new industries, offshore industries, the oil rigs. Again, they were teased in the announcement video that we saw back in May, and we've got even more to see in this first look environment video. So look at this. This is again going from the relatively arid, dry textures of a sort of desert landscape, mountainous desert landscape on the top right there, down to swamplands, into coastlines as you move out towards the left. And the new technology they're using in the map builder just makes that much more natural, seamless, I think is a word they use in one of the interviews that we've seen from them. It just looks awesome. I'm going to use that word a lot, I'm afraid. Again, whether it looks as good as this on my PC recording this is another matter. But if you've seen the original video, and I will be linking to it in the description below, obviously, so you can see it. If you've not already seen it, you probably have. Then you hopefully will get the full effect of the quality of graphics that we're getting in Transport Fever 3. Now, a whole set of things to say about this part of the video. This industry looks like an oil industry. I'm not seeing any cargo tags on any of the vehicles here, but it looks so much more alive. And what I'm seeing there is vehicles moving around within the industry. So is that something that is going to be built in to the new industries in Transport Fever 3? Will we be able to place stops within an industrial zone? Or will they be something like the freeform, I've got to forgotten the name of the mod already, that freeform industry, freestyle perhaps, whatever it was called, that was created for Transport Fever 2, where you built your own industry landscape. And obviously you could put roads and rail within that as you desired. Is that going to be built in to Transport Fever 3? It would be so lovely if it would. But obviously the main thing to notice here, which is what Sam, Colonel Ophelia, is getting to talk about, is the landscape and environmental options you've got available to. As we heard in the announcement video, full day-night cycle, which you can see listed here. So you can see what your world looks like in various times of the day. Morning, bright sunshine, late at night, different levels of cloud cover you can select here. Now, one thing that is going to be of interest to me here is, can you set your map to just be one time of day? So noon, morning, evening, night time, and it just runs at that time of day continuously, as it does at the moment in Transport Fever 2, which I think a lot of us would like to do, especially if you're detailing and so on. You don't want to have to start detailing your industries or your landscapes in the darkness of night. That would be ridiculous. So perhaps if you can set it to a permanent lighting setting for running of that game, or as opposed to having it sort of sequenced through over time as you go through, so it just moves gradually as you play from morning through to night, and so on through. Or can you change it, as he's doing here, to actually when you're actually playing the game, I'd like to see this running at night time, and you actually make that choice to run it for that period of time that amuses you to do so, for video recording purposes or whatever, then you can do that. So it'd be interesting to see how this whole day-night cycle mechanic is implemented. And something else we're seeing here is, look at that, nighttime. It works. Again, can we put lights on country roads? Can we do that? Right. Again, several things here to talk about. A new industry. Again, I think this was highlighted in the interview that they did. It might have been, I think it was actually Sam did an interview with a magazine. Am I going to have the name of that to hand? Gaming Bolt, or gamingbolt.com. Did a sort of a 2 or 3 page interview with Sam discussing what the new game offers, and he did mention one of the offshore industries was fishing. Again, I'll be talking more about that a little bit later in this video, but you can see here how it works so naturally, the day-night cycle. But also what he's showing here is you can choose cloud cover as well, so you can get the real ambience that you want for your game, and change the cloud cover and all the reflective surfaces, the water obviously in particular, which is what he's demonstrating here, will show that different cloud cover. That is great. Now, I remember when I was doing my Let's Play series for Transport Fever 2, someone did say in the comments to that, can you create a sort of a Martian landscape kind of game? And there is a Martian environment mod which gives you that red skies and stuff. I never got around to doing that, to be honest, which is a shame. But it looks like you can create that sort of thing here. Again, I'm assuming this is all moddable, that you can create your cloud cover as you like when you build your world. That just looks wonderful. Now, what's he talking about here? Who knows? Oh, yes, this is talking about the changes of the vegetation and so on, the different look to the different biomes that we've got in the game. The temperate biome has changed, but one which I thought was really nice, and we'll see this here. We're talking here about the the way you route your traffic, your route your lines, your roads, your rails, whatever, around the map. How do you hug the landscape? If you're going along a river or trying to create a coastal route, do you hug the coastline or the riverbank? How much more difficult and challenging is that going to be with mountainous regions like we see here? Interesting idea, interesting, and that just looks so much more natural. This I like again. This looks like a proper jungle landscape. So your tropical islands, like I'm trying to do in my Tropical Island Hub series at the moment for Transport Fever 2, it doesn't look especially jungly. We don't have the plants, the vegetation for that, but we're getting that with Transport Fever 3 by the look of it. And volcanoes. Again, apparently they don't erupt. Bit of a shame, would be lovely. Again, that's something that perhaps would be nice here. We're not getting AI. There's no mention of multiplayer. That's all fine by me, and I'll perhaps discuss and make more on that as we go through into this video a little bit later. But it would be nice to have some sort of disaster mechanic as well, like an economic crash perhaps, or thunderstorms, or climate change, or just exploding or erupting volcanoes, raining death and destruction and apocalypse upon surrounding towns. This is the new MESA, the new dry arid desert landscapes. Again, looking good. This actually, to be honest, does look very similar to Transport Fever 2, but I dare say it's slightly more natural and realistic in its representation. And he's going to start mentioning any time now the brand new biome, the brand new environment we've got for Transport Fever 3, which is subarctic. So going, as he says, from more realistic mountainscapes, snow-topped and so on, down to tundras and those sort of more arid vegetation areas like we see here. Again, one thing here which is nice, the rocks do look more realistically placed. One or two of them you might think, I'm not entirely convinced that is a genuine rock there, but it certainly looks a lot more real. Oh, is that animals? I didn't notice that when I first watched that. What sort of animal? It looks like a bear or something. You can just see it. Yeah, there we go. And this is, again, the subarctic kind of thing. It kind of reminds me of parts of Canada. I did a rail trip across the Rockies, and some of the landscape was very much like this. These beautiful snow-capped peaks against this brilliant blue sky, and this wonderful sort of whatever the correct graphical term is, this hillside forest areas. Now, this again, more industry stuff. So we're seeing here, he's talking about getting new industries into the game. So what we're seeing here is clearly sand going into a glass making factory. And shall I actually talk about industry now? I think we might. Now, one of the things that is being talked about here is how the new tycoon features work in Transport Fever 3, or how they expect them to work. So it's not going to be a sort of detailed economy kind of thing from the sound of it, or they've made no mention of it anyway, let's put it that way, of things like stock markets and AI competitors and buying each other out and competing for routes and so on. I'm okay with that, to be honest. I don't have a problem with that, but they're making it more of a living environment, both in terms of the landscape and the world itself, and also the industry and the cities on your map. They're going to be much more alive, and that's going to be the challenge, actually dealing with their demands and changes in demands. So what he's talking about here is, how do we get that glass to the bottle factory? Do we simply plough through the landscape and destroy some beautiful countryside, or do we take the longer, more conscious, more environmentally conscious route? Takes longer. Is it more profitable? Possibly not, to be honest, but it's more respectful of the environment, and that is going to be part of the challenge, because how you treat the environment, so we're told, is going to impact on your reputation. And that's going to impact So we're told. I mean, all this is, a lot of this is surmising what we've been told and extrapolating, interpolating between the things they have said and what we think is going to be the mechanic at play here. So it's going to be, we're going to have to get things done properly in terms of dealing with our city and industrial demands. And that gives us our reputation. So we need to keep that up. Otherwise, our industry is going to say, no, you're not supplying us quickly enough, efficiently enough, fast enough. You're destroying too much of our precious environment. You're not getting any goods from us. Is that going to be part of the challenge? And one of the other things that was said, I think this was in the interview for Gaming Bolt magazine or .com. Is it a real magazine? Who knows? Was that talking about time criticality for some good deliveries. Now, is every cargo going to be time critical? So getting coal to the steel foundry, getting wood, logs to the sawmill, is that going to be time critical? Or is it just going to be the finished goods going to the cities where you need to get things delivered on time? So that's going to be interesting to see how that mechanic works. So that is where the sort of the new tycoon features are coming into play, I think, rather than the stock market or AI competition and so on. It's more of a do it efficiently and meet the demands of the world you're working in terms of both the industries and the consumers, the cities. So get that done efficiently. And also said there was industries evolve. So are they going to grow as they do in Transport Fever 2 in terms of how much you supply their demand, how much you get done in a certain amount of time? What are the enhancements they're making to that? Now, presumably we're going to have another first look video at some point in the near future, which will describe that in more detail. But the questions we've got at this point are, is that time criticality going to apply to all industries? What's the effect of that going to be on those source raw material industries? We're also going to see, apparently, maps, different industries on different maps. Will a different subarctic biome have different industry change to a tropical biome? That's what we're looking at. So every game, again, is going to be different, which is going to be part of that challenge. Also mentioned is that industries emerge as cities grow. Now, is that going to be simply, at the moment, as they do in Transport Fever 2, as the city grows, they demand more goods, different types of goods, which is kind of just, it's a mechanic. It does that. It allows you to provide them with more cargo. Or is it going to be time-based? I'd love to see it based on time. So at the moment, you don't get plastics. You can get plastic factories in 1850, 1900. Not terribly realistic. Is that going to be changing? Are we going to see new types of industry emerge as the years progress? That will be a wonderful addition to the game. Actually, just going back to the landscape point, something I've just noticed on my notes that I failed to mention is we're told about the player reputation being affected potentially by how much damage you do to the landscape in terms of driving trains through lush forests, for example. What happens then when you undo that? If you realise at some point later to do a more environmentally sustainable route, a longer route, but is friendlier, I can manage that. When you undo that route at the moment, as we've seen in Transport Fever 2, the landscape itself recovers. It sort of comes back to more or less the state it was in before you put that rail down or those roads down or whatever. Will there be some reputational recovery as well as part of that? So as we know, I mean, when you've got what do they call those surface mines, where you just dig a great big hole in the ground and carve stone or whatever out of it, doing huge damage to that landscape. When that industry finishes, when they've got all the stone or ore out of that, they may turn it into something more pleasurable. A lake, a tourist attraction. They may put forest or vegetation back. So there's restitution of the environment. Will that be a feature of this as well? If you've got a negative, be great to see a positive coming out of that as well. Now, what are we looking at here? I'm not entirely sure what we're looking at here. This is just a nighttime landscape. It looks gorgeous, doesn't it, anyway? Awesome. I think it's drawing the video to a close here. So what I'm going to say here is, what we'll do is it will play this, and I'll go back to the announcement video. And I'll play that as I just wrap up some of my final thoughts on what we've seen here. One of the things that was mentioned in the Gaming Bolt article was maintenance, which at the moment affects how the vehicles look and the amount of pollution they emit. So that's the mechanic for and the negative effect of badly maintained old vehicles, which kind of works, but it's basic, it's simplistic. And what we're hearing now is that maintenance is going to be a whole new part of that sort of tycoon element that we're seeing much more to the fore in Transport Fever 3. So is maintenance not going to just be old looking vehicles emitting pollution, but there's going to be a performance hit as well? And they weren't terribly conclusive about it, they weren't terribly authoritative. I think it was hinting at, is what he was saying in that article, that there will be some sort of performance penalties if you don't maintain your vehicles. So we're talking about, will they go slower, will they carry less cargo, what sort of effects that going to be? So you're going to have to be aware of that and make sure you keep your vehicles in good maintenance. In which point they mention maintenance facilities, kind of thing we had in the old Transport Tycoon Deluxe, that some of the Railroad Tycoon, Railroad Empire, is it called? Railway Empire, whatever those other new railroady games that we've got, most of them have some sort of maintenance depot facility where you have to send your trains back to get maintenance. So that's going to be something you're going to have to plan for as well, is ensure it may not just be paying more money on a monthly basis. You have to send your vehicles in for regular maintenance checkups and servicing. That would be fun. That would be quite a challenge, I imagine, in some maps. That's going to be good. And it also suggested that we will be getting slightly different effects on the maintenance in different environments. So if you're working in a tropical, a very hot, humid, dank environment, will that have more of an effect if they're on maintenance and the performance penalties therefrom than working in a more temperate, dry environment? Be interesting to see how those mechanics work out. Anyway, we are looking at something really good, I think, at the moment. I'm really happy with a lot of what I'm seeing here. We haven't got a lot of information. What we've got is leading us into some interesting speculation, which I'm just fueling here basically in this video, aren't I? So I'm really loving the new look. The new graphics are amazing. I really like the focus on the new Tycoon features, of which I'm sure we'll be hearing more in upcoming videos. The new map making looks wonderful. It's going to allow people, I don't do this so much myself, as you may have noticed. I will allow other people with much more patience and imagination than I've got to create absolutely beautiful worlds, and there's been some spectacular work done for Transport Fever 2. The work we're going to see from people who build worlds in Transport Fever 3, I think, is going to be phenomenal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that, and the sort of natural realism is going to be incredible to play in. The Tycoon stuff looking good so far. I'm okay with it not being AI. It's not that sort of game at the moment. Maybe Transport Fever 4, 5, whatever, or maybe a different type of game altogether. They may start introducing a competitive element in that sense. I'm okay with that, and I imagine most players of Transport Fever 2, or even, if you remember, back in the day, Train Fever, yes, that's what got me started on this whole kick. To be honest, the way I play the game and the way I think a lot of players play it, from what I can see on the Steam forums, we're not too bothered about a competitive AI or multiplayer for that matter. Maybe down the line that will come, But for now, this is what Transport Fever 3 is looking like, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Sam, previously known as Colonel Failure, tells us about. I'm assuming he's going to do all of these videos, but I think it was Tom from Urban Games who did them for Transport Fever 2. I think he did all of them, so I dare say Sam will be doing all of these. So I look forward to seeing those and getting into a discussion with you, a conversation with you. This is not a reaction video, this is a conversation piece, a discussion point. So if you've got anything to say about what we've seen so far in the announcement video, in this first look of the environment, the map builder, then please do let me know. Just drop a note to the comments box below. Let's get a conversation going on what we're looking forward to, what we're a little bit concerned about perhaps. Do you have any concerns about the direction of the game? Are you hoping for things they haven't talked about yet? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this. This is a good deal longer than I planned it to be, but I just cannot stop talking about how wonderful I think this game is looking at this point in time. If you've enjoyed this, do let me know. A little bit of a like would be lovely. Click on the old thumbs uppy button. Even better, of course, obviously, just get into the conversation. Let's discuss what we've seen, what we're hoping will come in next year, 2026. Drop a note into the comments box below. That would be awesome. And of course, if you've not already subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel if you've not done it already, and don't forget to click that little notification bell thing. Apparently it's quite good, allegedly, at letting you know when things actually happen on the channel, so don't forget to do that too. But for me, Ajaxpost, here looking for the very first time at Transport Fever 3, until the next time, bye bye for now.